What's going on, y'all? Fort Worth Fabian, man, back again with a video. We're doing a reaction to the inconvenient truth about the Democratic Party, man. Be sure to like the video, comment down below. Let me know your thoughts. Subscribe to the channel, man. Check me out on my socials, X and Instagram at Fort Worth Fabian, man. Let's get into the video.
When you think about racial equality and civil rights, which political party comes to mind? The Republicans or the Democrats? Most people would probably say the Democrats, but this answer is incorrect. Since its founding in 1829, the Democratic Party has fought against every major civil rights initiative and has a long history of discrimination. The Democratic Party defended slavery, started the Civil War, opposed Reconstruction, founded the Ku Klux Klan, imposed segregation, perpetrated lynchings, and fought against the Civil Rights Acts of the 1950s.
Whoa, that's news to me. I did not know that they founded the KKK. Obviously, you think like the South predominantly like what was Republican, right? And slavery was at a point in time. You know, the South tried to hold on to slavery as long as possible, right? So that's news to me. That's news to me. Perpetrated lynchings. Hold up.
And 1960s. In contrast, the Republican Party was founded in 1854 as an contrast of the 1950s, lynchings. The Democratic Party has fought against every major civil.
I mean, then again, if the Republican Party was founded nearly 30 years after the fact, there was naturally people with Republican mindset within the Democratic Party. So, I mean, that's kind of like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know. You can't really fully hold them accountable, right? Because what was it? Was it the majority of the Republicans who advocated for the KKK and lynchings and things of that sort? Or was it the Republican Party side? Because 30 years after the fact is when they're actually curated.
And has founded the Ku Klux Klan, imposed segregation, perpetrated lynchings, and fought against the Civil Rights Acts of the 1950s and 1960s. In contrast, the Republican Party was founded in 1854 as an anti-slavery party. Its mission was to stop the spread of slavery into the new Western territories with the aim of abolishing it entirely. This effort, however, was dealt a major blow by the Supreme Court in the 1857 case, Dred Scott versus Sandford.
That's crazy, though, because when you think about it, it's kind of backwards. Because when you talk about red states, right? Red states typically tend to be the most racist. I mean, let's keep it a bean. But I guess that kind of, like, evolved over time. The origins didn't necessarily stem or root from that in terms of what we know as the Republican Party today. I'm not a big politics guy. But I ain't no leftist, I'll tell you that. You know what I'm saying? That's one thing I would say. But yeah, I just think like what we know it as today is probably not even close to what the origins stem from.
The court ruled that slaves aren't citizens, they're property. The seven justices who voted in favor of slavery, all Democrats. The two justices who dissented, both Republicans. The slavery question was, of course, ultimately resolved by a bloody civil war.
Them boys outnumbered nowadays.
The commander-in-chief during that war was the first Republican president, Abraham Lincoln, the man who freed the slaves.
My guy, my dog.
6 days after the Confederate Army surrendered, John Wilkes Booth, a Democrat, assassinated President Lincoln. Lincoln's vice president, a Democrat named Andrew Johnson, assumed the presidency. But Johnson adamantly opposed Lincoln's plan to integrate the newly freed slaves into the South's economic and social order. Johnson and the Democratic Party were unified in their opposition to the 13th Amendment, which abolished slavery, the 14th Amendment, which gave blacks citizenship, and the 15th Amendment, which gave blacks the vote. All three passed only because of universal Republican support. During the era of Reconstruction, federal troops stationed in the South helped secure rights for the newly freed slaves. Hundreds of black men were elected to Southern state legislatures as Republicans, and 22 black
Facts.
Republicans served in the U.S.
No
Congress
way.
by 1900. The Democrats did not elect a black man to Congress until 1935.
Wolf in sheep's clothing, man. That's the point I was kind of getting at prior. Is if the Democratic Party is representative of a bulk or the majority of representatives, right? Naturally, it's like the masses will always tend to have the vote or the majority vote. You know what I mean? But to see that kind of be overturned over time, I want to know, like, because if we look at it, there's way more red states today. You know what I mean? In our current time, to where like what teeter-tottered or like lopsided the numbers there. You know what I'm saying? There had to be folks coming from the Democratic Party jumping ship coming over to the Republican Party. So I kind of want to understand, what was the shift?
But after Reconstruction ended, when the federal troops went home, Democrats roared back into power in the South. They quickly reestablished white supremacy across the region with measures like black codes, laws that restricted the ability of blacks to own property and run businesses, and they imposed poll taxes and literacy tests used to subvert black citizens' right to vote. And how was all of this enforced? By terror, much of it instigated by the Ku Klux Klan, founded by a Democrat, Nathan Bedford Forrest. As historian Eric Foner, himself a Democrat, notes, in effect, the Klan was a military force serving the interests of the Democratic Party. President Woodrow Wilson, a Democrat, shared many views with the Klan. He resegregated many federal agencies and even screened the first movie ever played at the White House, the racist film The Birth of a Nation, originally entitled The Klansman. A few decades later, the only serious congressional opposition to the landmark Civil Rights Act of 1964 came from Democrats. 80% of Republicans in Congress supported the bill, less than 70% of Democrats did. Democratic senators filibustered the bill for 75 days until Republicans mustered the few extra votes needed to break the logjam. And when all of their efforts to enslave blacks, keep them enslaved, and then keep them from voting had failed, the Democrats came up with a new strategy. If black people are going to vote, they might as well vote for Democrats. As President Lyndon Johnson was purported to have said about the Civil Rights Act,
Systematic brainwashing.
I'll have them voting Democrat for 200 years.
This hood.
So now,
Racist that boy. But that's the systematic, brainwashing, in the sense to where every black person just thinks that they're aligned with the Democratic Party. I'm black, I'm Democrat. Bro, the Democrats never cared about you, bro. You know what I'm saying? It's this whole like, well, they represent black people. Like, bro, and I ain't gonna be the one to validate every claim and every argument just from a political standpoint, because that's not my expertise. A lot of the information tied to this video is just information I had no clue about. But when we talk about the Union, so there are 11 southern slave states seceded to form the Confederates. What were those states, though? Virginia. Were these some of the Kentucky? So this was around 1861 to 65. So about close to 2 decades after the fact. In terms of the origins, we're going back to the first date range that was stated or pointed out to where uh, the Republican Party came into conception.
The Democratic Party prospers on the votes of the very people it has spent much of its history oppressing. Democrats falsely claim that the Republican Party is the villain, when in reality, it's the failed policies of the Democratic Party that have kept blacks down. Massive government welfare has decimated the black family. Opposition to school choice has kept them trapped in failing schools. Politically correct policing has left black neighborhoods defenseless against violent crime. So when you think about racial equality and civil rights, which political party should come to mind? I'm Carol Swain, professor of political science and law at Vanderbilt University for Prager University.
Shout out to Vanderbilt. Man, she laid down some gems, man. Man, there's so much information out there, bro, and just in the sense of one needs to educate oneself, right? Just to be optimal. You know what I'm saying? Like, you just gonna be fed BS and you're gonna buy into it. But the point I'm trying to make is, I think a lot of this, American history, so to speak, is just, there's history all over the world. You know what I'm saying? And I think as African people that came to this country, against one's will, there's history that's untold from the motherland and the origins. And that's history that's, swept under the rug and people don't like to talk about. But like, Africans were force fed American history, or what was European history at that time, right? Which was a sabotage to believe that, life outside of that continent was so much better. So you were kind of put in a number 2 position, longing to be in a number 1 position. You know what I mean? But like, blacks have no foundation nowadays. I mean, everybody's American. If you're born here, like, I'm American, I'm born here. You know what I'm saying? But the true history of our origins doesn't come from here. But a lot of people turn blind eyes to that. You know what I mean? They don't really care because they love America so much, and they love to where when you look at communities that are just poverty stricken, man, and just like, if we look at some of these statistics in terms of, we're looking at criminology, if we look into just the social perspective, divorce rates and, kind of like single parent households, things of that sort, violence. Some could even throw in substance abuse, things of that sort. But these dynamics, man, that completely obliterate the black community, man, it's not something to hang your head to be proud about at all. It's not something to look at and be like, man, that's just the state of our community. It's more so like, a lot of people have their own theories in terms of like, people want to blame the crack epidemic and the government flooding inner cities with drugs, and which caused a lot of which caused the breaking of a lot of traditional homes. You know what I mean? So I don't know. Like, there's so many issues that are just deeply ingrained, and the modern day black American is not gonna take time to look at history and roots. He's just, I'm black and I'm American. To whereas I think a lot of the rhyme behind the reason, it takes it back to cultural origins, our beginnings that don't stem from America. You know what I mean? Take it back to Africa. But a lot of that data, a lot of that history is lost. People don't have the, some of these original texts and information. Like, everything that's fed to you is American history. You know what I'm saying? And it's cool and all, but that's not a real representation of us. You know what I'm saying? So it's just a funny spot to be in, because I don't know. It just don't look good. You know what I'm saying? It don't look good at all. And of course, you got the ignorant folks who just gonna be on their own type of time, and it is what it is. But I think those who search for the depths and a certain understanding will find it, and it kind of helps you align with who you are as well, because a lot of what people are taught out here is just a pure facade. So, you know what I'm saying? So comment down below, man. Let me know y'all's thoughts. we could go on and on about this type of content, this type of subject matter, man, and it's interesting to have conversations about. So that's naturally why I'm covering topics like this. But let me know y'all's thoughts in the comment section below, man, and we'll catch you on the next video. We out.